Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another speed build for the Disney save. Today we're going to be making the very first true residential for the brand new world Oasis Springs, and this is Genie's home. I couldn't think of another way to do this other than we need to do a Genie lamp, and I can't actually take full credit for this idea at all. This is a combination of some patrons' ideas, my husband's idea as well. Something that I've been kind of complaining about for the save file for a long time now is that we do not have a proper tiny home in the Disney save. I've tried to implement it in other places, but you guys know I'm a really big builder. I use pretty much the entire lot every single time, and tiny homes are really challenging for me, but they are something that's in the game, and one of the things that I kind of strive to do with the Disney save is utilize as much of the game as possible. So I really want to start implementing more tiny homes, and this idea is just perfect for a tiny home. So this is a tier 2 tiny home, and that means it comes with like specific perks in that category. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Of course, I tried to make it a little bit smaller so that it could be a tier 1 so it could get maximum perks, but I had a shape issue here and like a lot of complicated pieces, as you guys can see, to make this come to life and actually make it look like a lamp. So I had to kind of go with what I needed to do in order to pull off the shape here. We're calling this build Itty Bitty Living Space, obviously in reference to the line from the film and also a play on the fact that it is a tiny home. And Genie is going to be living here, which means that he's going to be the next video that you guys see. We'll do a little create a sim of just him. Of course, he could be living in the future builds where we're going to be creating most of the Aladdin characters, kind of with Aladdin in the palace, that kind of a vibe. But I really liked this idea and I loved the opportunity to create something super whimsical, and it's such a challenge. I spent a really long time off screen, not recording, fishing out pieces in the debug catalog, trying to figure out how I was even going to make this become a reality, because this is a weird one. It's a weird shape, it's got like weird floating natures to it, and it's got like some structural pieces, including the front bit, the round bit on the bottom, and then like the handle, and I had to figure out how I was gonna do all of that. Like, what could I possibly use? So I spent a lot of time off camera just scrolling through everything, pulling out possible pieces, trying to like push things together, kind of like a puzzle, to see if I could come up with anything that even closely resembled a lamp, and it was not going well at first at all. But then I finally succumbed to the round walls, which I do usually try to avoid as a builder. They're very annoying. So after I just made the decision I had to do the round walls, it definitely started to take shape. And then I found those arches. So the handles on the back are actually the arches from the Wedding Stories pack, and they are just tilted with tulle and kind of sized up and down to create like that swirling effect. I found some really great pieces that are from Debug to use on the bottom as kind of like the support for the building, and that is not attached to the rest of the build. Like, essentially the building is actually just floating in the middle there. The other part was of course the cap, which was much easier. You can use a couple of roof pieces, some of those round fountain balls and lights sized up and down. That's no problem. And then the last challenge was figuring out how to do the spout at the front bit there. I originally was using a bridge. It's kind of a weird shape. It's meant to go down, up, and out at the same time, and I was looking at lots of references, like specifically of the lamp used in Aladdin, but just Genie lamp references in general, to figure out what could possibly exist that is a similar shape. And ultimately I really couldn't find anything. Like I said, I did use a bridge, and you might see some clips of that here and there throughout the video, but when I was doing it, it did look a little bit funny and it didn't make a ton of sense. Like, why is there a bridge hanging off the front of your building? So then I started using some roof pieces and it came out much better. Does it make complete sense? No, but this house doesn't make complete sense. This is a crazy house. This is like an Airbnb, like absolute wildness. It gives me Moulin Rouge vibes, like Elephant Tower. I don't know what this is, but it's whimsical, it's beautiful, it's unique. It kind of fits the vibes of the rest of the build, even though it's absolutely crazy and weird. And it's the most true way to do like an actual house for Genie, because he does quite literally live in the lamp. And obviously in Aladdin, that lamp is very small and everybody carries it around in little bags and things like that. But if we're gonna do his house, and I'm even thinking about a little bit of Dreamlight Valley, like if Dreamlight Valley brought him in, how would they do his home? And I do think they would do something like this, like a sized up version of the lamp, because that's where he lives. So yes, it's weird. Yes, it is kind of an awkward shape. It's one of my more unique houses, but it's super recognizable, and I like the uniqueness of it. There's going to be some other Aladdin things that kind of fit this vibe, the more like magic, whimsical, animated, just maybe not 100% realistic. Although I do think you could build something like this in real life, and like I said, it would be the most popular Airbnb ever if somebody did something like this. So it's not to say that it couldn't exist, and so here we are. I've made it for you. Now, Genie is not going to be an actual genie because we do not have that in The Sims 4 currently. I don't foresee them ever adding genies for multiple reasons. I think there is some negative connotation when it comes to certain depictions of genies, and I think that The Sims is really trying to stay away from anything that can be considered even mildly controversial, which I understand. The other thing is they're so similar to spellcasters that I could see them like, I wish they would do it but call it something else, if that makes sense, because it could already utilize the coding that they have in place for spellcasters, but then create something that's a little bit more unique and plays on like the 3 wishes rule, and something that can be summoned, something that kind of is attached to an object. Like, they could already use the coding in the game to create something, and so part of me wishes that they would do it and then they would just call it something else, or they would call it like a Sims version of a new occult, but I don't foresee that happening. So Genie is going to be a spellcaster for now. It definitely makes the most sense, which means that he is going to have the ability to transport around, and that is something that comes in handy specifically with this house because it doesn't have a front door, if you noticed. I don't like doing this. This is usually like one of my rules of thumb, but I do think that maybe for something like this with a genie and a lamp, and it's very much his and no one else should be able to get inside of it, although it's his home, and although the idea of like inviting Aladdin to the lamp to hang out is a fun concept, it's not really true to the film. Like, if you're thinking about this as just a sized up version of the lamp itself, no one should be able to get in here except for Genie. This is very much an embodiment of who he is. It's his space, and there's no access to it except for if you are a genie or if you're a spellcaster in that regard. So there is no front door, meaning other Sims can't come in and visit unless you can transport inside. You can easily change that as a player if that's something that you're not really into. A door can definitely be added to one of the sides where the windows are, and then a ladder put up so that regular Sims can get in. I normally make all lots accessible to all Sims, like Olympus comes to mind. Of course, they can all transport to the tippy top of Olympus that's floating in the sky, but if you are a normal Sim and you can't float or you can't transport, then you needed another access way, so I did add one of those portals from Realm of Magic for you to be able to get up to Olympus. But I do think that this is a little bit different, and I'm okay with not doing the front door in this instance so that it's just his space. For the interior, this was a tough one. I don't do tiny homes very often. There is the aspect of needing certain items so that it is super functional, and then I wanted lots of like color, whimsicalness. I liked the blues and the purples, some red, some gold, just in reference to the character's color palette. I wanted it to feel like something that was really happy and colorful for Genie, and then any type of references to, of course, things that he might be interested in, although he shows very few interests in the film just because of the nature of what he is and what he does. He doesn't have a ton of like his own thing going on, right? He doesn't have a bunch of interests, but he does show that he would like to travel, he would like to be free. I think that in future renditions of like the Aladdin TV show and different movies and things, when he is technically free, he does travel around, so we know that about him. The other thing about Genie is that he kind of transcends time in a weird way. He is probably immortal, he has been around since forever, and although he definitely is like, it's taking place in Aladdin, so it's in a certain time period, you still have to think about the fact that like he could live well beyond that, and he makes so many references to different forms of entertainment and movies, and that's kind of like the whole persona and Robin Williams' addition to the character. So I think little things like some movie related references, TVs, are kind of okay in this very specific instance, where I wouldn't put a TV like over at the Agrabah Market, but here I feel like he might be okay with a TV. Because of the round walls and of course the tiny home aspect, I decided not to cut this up into a bunch of walls. I decided to keep this very open floor plan. He's not going to have guests over, no one's coming in, so in a sense it can just kind of be like a studio apartment. Have everything sort of arranged in, this is my bedroom kind of space, this is the bathroom side, this is the kitchen side, but we don't need walls to sort of separate it. There's no privacy issues, and lots of lounging spaces, of course. He definitely needed stuff like that. I also think that the bubble blower kind of goes well with his character, so I wanted to sneak that one in there as well. I did find some really cool references when doing research of just like Genie themed nightclubs and the way that those were sort of designed, and I definitely took inspiration from that. But the thing about it is they had a lot of custom furniture that was very curvy and retro looking, almost like I Dream of Genie-esque, which we don't have a ton of in the Sims 4 catalog. So I tried to like add that element, but as far as the furniture goes, a lot of it is very boxed off and it just wasn't giving the same vibe. So I think that when I was done with this build, I came away a little bit disappointed, even though it's really pretty and unique. There was just something about it that I felt like maybe I didn't fully pull this off and it doesn't give all the vibes that I wanted it to, but I do think this comes down to a case of not properly having all of the stuff in the build and buy catalog that I would have wanted to do this perfectly. Like, this is a pack sort of thing. If they made a kit that was very specifically like retro-y 80s, 70s sort of furniture, I feel like a lot of that would have helped in the curvy, colorful, fantastical sort of aspect that I was going for in here. And so I might come back to this and kind of like replace things over time. It'll be so fun to playtest this place. I've never playtested a tiny home before. I can already picture some of the things that I've done in here that are probably not going to work right away, but I will figure it all out. Quick video today, but there is definitely so much more to come. We have the Create a Sim for Genie coming up very, very soon. It'll just be him in that video, and then I have one more Aladdin speed build that is themed specifically around Genie that actually goes on the lot right next door. Just as a side note, for anyone who is interested, I am now actively posting on TikTok. I'm going to be making some Disney Save content over there, as well as my upcoming Disney trip to Disney World and other Disney related things, and of course a little bit of me. So if you're interested in more stuff, please follow me over there. It'll be linked in my description down below. And if you'd like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in my description box down below or the one at the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I will talk to you all in the next one.